You're listening to this podcast, so I know you've got a curious mind. Here's a helpful fact you might not know yet. Drivers who switch and save with Progressive save over $900 on average. They make it super simple. Pop over to Progressive.com, answer some questions, and you'll get a quick quote with coverage options tailored to your choices. Plus, you'll see which discounts you may qualify for, like the online quote discount or savings for paying in full. In fact, 99% of Progressive Auto customers earn at least one discount. See if you could save when you switch to Progressive. You'll feel good about making a savvy choice. Visit Progressive.com and see if you can enjoy a little extra cash back. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. National average 12-month savings of $946 by new customers surveyed who saved with Progressive between June 2024 and May 2025. Potential savings will vary.
Hi, welcome to Crime Clueless. We're your hosts. I'm Jenna.
And I'm Laura.
We are back for part 2 of our coverage on John and Shelly Markley. If you haven't listened to part 1, go listen to it. It sets everything up, tells you about who this family was. We went through a crazy extortion scheme. And when we last left off, we talked about how Durst had failed the polygraph. You ready to jump right back in?
Yep, I'm ready to learn more about this. I still have a lot of questions, so.
I still have a lot of answers. This case,
but it sounds like not
lot.
enough.
No, not enough. I'm sorry. That is accurate.
Yeah.
Now, Durst's defense was consistent throughout. He maintained that he knew nothing about the disappearance. He even claimed that someone else had made the ransom calls and that he was just a middleman collecting money on someone's behalf. His attorney, who was from Warren, told the plain dealer that Durst was a victim of unproven suspicions. He said jurors believed that Durst was involved in the disappearance, so they convicted him of the only charge they actually had, extortion. It's a puzzling case, his lawyer said. It's a sad case.
So even his own attorney acknowledged kind of that the jury was convicting him because they thought he did something worse, right?
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly what he was saying. In August of 1996, Durst was found guilty of extortion and sentenced to 10 years at the Marion Correctional Institution. Durst appealed. The appeal is dismissed in 1998. And throughout all of it, he maintains that he had nothing to do with John and Shelly actually going missing. He says he's just a guy who saw an opportunity and took it.
Specifically, they have cited that he was out of work and telling people that they owed him $1,000. I mean, it kind of seems like gotta be him in that truck. It just, I don't know.
Right. And I can't say for certain. We just know that very vague description, slender and dark-haired. I still feel like he could be described as that from his booking photo, but police have never said that they think it was him in the car.
Interesting.
And the math is sitting there, right? He's out of work. He says they owe him $1,000. And on the morning they disappear, they withdraw exactly $1,000 with some mystery man. That is either the most unbelievable coincidence in the history of unsolved cases, or, yeah, it was Steven Durst in that truck.
And if he was in the truck, then this wasn't just an extortion scheme. He didn't see it on the news and decide to make a quick buck. He was there from the beginning. And
right.
And maybe, and you know, it fits to me. Like he shows up at their house. He wants money. They're like, here, we'll give you the $1,000 that we owe you if you just leave us alone. Like it fits, you know?
Oh, yeah. Especially with how well he knew the house, how he knew Ruth's name, knew she was the oldest. Probably hoped he could convince her to not call the police and just get him the money somehow. Although I don't know how he thought a 15, almost 16-year-old
was going to get $10,000 and sell a car and all the things.
Yeah, she can't sell the car either.
No.
And we do want to be really clear. That is not proven. Durst was never charged with anything related to the disappearance itself. He was charged and convicted of the extortion. But here's the thing that makes me think law enforcement eventually came around to the same conclusion that you just did.
Oh, what's that?
About a year after the disappearance, So by late 1996, early 1997, the lead investigator on the case, who was chief investigator Jane Timko, goes on record with a very different assessment than what the sheriff had said initially. She says, quote, "I truly believe that Steven Durst knows what happened to them and he just won't say," end quote. And she also specifically cites the fact that Durst was out of work and the $1,000.
Yeah, so the investigator seems to know this case inside and out, believes that Durst is lying as well.
That he's lying and that he knows what happened.
Yeah.
Now, whether he was responsible or whether he was there when someone else did something, whether he helped cover it up after the fact, she never goes into that specific of detail. But she is clear that in her professional judgment, Durst has information about what happened to John and Shelly, and he is choosing not to share it.
Has he ever changed his story, or has he been really consistent this whole time?
He has been consistent, just like through the trial, from the day he was arrested, even when his appeal was dismissed, even in the years since. Durst has consistently denied any involvement in the disappearance. He served his time, and that's where his story ends, at least publicly. I haven't been able to find any reporting on where Durst is now, whether he's still alive, or whether investigators even went back to him in the years since.
That's so wild. I mean,
Yeah.
They owe him that same amount of money that they pull out of the bank. He gets caught in a scheme related to supposed ransom for the couple.
Mm-hmm.
And just nobody can prove it.
Exactly. The article, all of this was published in February of 1997, like we mentioned, by reporter Mark Vosberg. And I want to read you one line from his opening because he says it perfectly. He says, "There are no bodies in this mystery, only broken hearts."
That's so sad. It's so sad for the kids.
It's so sad. And with that, that is where our Durst trail ends, publicly anyways. Now, the case really kind of went somewhat cold after that for a while. The next time it was cracked open, 25 years later, it involved a 50-acre property, 2 excavators, and a man who died in a jail cell before anyone could ask him a single question.
Oh, wow.
By 6 months, 8 months after the Markleys disappeared, there were no new leads, no new witnesses. The Trumbull County Sheriff's Office still considers it open and active, and they did the whole time. But for years, nothing moves. The family does everything they can to keep it in the public eye. They even go on the Montel Williams show. They go on the Maury Povich show. They have psychics that tell them there are different places to check, and they do. And officers check all of those places too. They don't find anything. And I believe 3 out of 4 of the psychics said they were in a body of water. They checked anywhere that they could, and nothing. None of it produced a break.
How long are we talking, that they're doing all of this?
20 years.
Oh, that's so hard. 20 years of just no breaks, no nothing.
Yeah. In December of 2015, right around the 20th anniversary of the disappearance, Sheriff Tom Altier, who was in his first term as sheriff back when the Markleys vanished, and who says he is still haunted by this case, goes on record with WFMJ News out of Youngstown and says they've received new information. He also says that this case has been on his mind for 20 years. He tells the reporter that his office has just conducted new interviews. They talked to 3 people in just the past week, and they have 3 more on the list.
3 more on the list, like suspects or people that they're looking
People
into?
to interview.
Okay. Did he say who they were?
Nope. He wouldn't say who any of the 6 people were or what the new information was about or why they wanted to talk to those people specifically. And Major Tom Stewart, who had been working the case for years at this point, told the Tribune Chronicle that despite the interviews, the investigation was still at a, quote, roadblock.
So they interviewed 6 new people and still nothing new, no new information?
That's the public version of what happened anyways. It's possible something came out of those interviews that they didn't share publicly. We know that law enforcement doesn't always want to share what they've got. But as far as the family and the public were concerned, 2015 came and then went without a resolution. 20th anniversary passed, the case stayed cold. And then 5 years later, in April of 2020, something happened in Bristol Township that no one saw coming. And it has nothing to do with the Markleys, at least not at first. So I want to tell you about a man named Milton Kurtzman. And I need to tell you the story the way it unfolded because each piece builds on the last.
Okay, that sounds really interesting.
On April 9th, 2020, a late Thursday afternoon around 4:30, deputies with the Trumbull County Sheriff's Office get a 911 call about a shooting at a house on Hyde Oakfield Road in Bristol Township.
That's where the Markleys lived, right? In Bristol Township?
Yep, exactly. The victim is a 64-year-old man named Alan Byler. He had been shot 3 times in the abdomen and the back. He staggers out of the house and across the road to a neighbor's back porch. The neighbor calls 911, and on that 911 tape, you can hear her. She is panicked. She says this guy showed up on her porch. He's bleeding everywhere. And he told her that the guy he lives with shot him.
So it was like his roommate, someone that lived with?
Yeah. Yep. They were roommates. And Milton Kurtzman is 71. He's the one that shot Alan Byler. He owns the property and it's roughly 50 acres. After the shooting, Kurtzman barricades himself inside the house. Neighbors captured cell phone video of police outside ordering him to come out. Eventually, they talk him out. They take him into custody. He's booked into the Trumbull County Jail on a felonious assault charge. He's given no bond. Fortunately, Byler survives the shooting and he's taken to the hospital.
And did Kurtzman live in the township when the Markleys lived there?
Yes.
Okay.
The next day, Friday, April 10th, less than 24 hours after Kurtzman is booked into jail, a corrections officer does a routine check on his cell. The CO had just seen him 7 minutes earlier and he was fine. 7 minutes later, the officer comes back and finds Kurtzman on the floor. They try to revive him and they can't. Milton Kurtzman is dead.
Oh, wow. Did they say why he died?
He showed no signs of illness when he was booked. No medical issues were flagged during intake. There's no indication of foul play, no indication of suicide. The chief deputy at the time later said he had personally watched Kurtzman during the booking process. He wasn't out of breath, wasn't struggling, didn't appear sick. The autopsy would eventually rule it natural causes. But the timing is,
That's interesting. He is 71-year-old man. Could be heart attack or something.
Mm-hmm.
But kind of coincidental timing for someone who just committed a very violent crime and had been in jail for one day.
Mm-hmm. Now, the very next day, Saturday, April 11th, the Bureau of Criminal Investigation agents and the Trumbull County Sheriff's deputies show up at Kurtzman's 50-acre property and they start digging.
Just out of the blue?
Mm-hmm.
Just digging at his property?
Yeah.
Interesting.
They bring in excavators. They're searching vehicles, buildings, combing through the land. They come back again on Monday and again on Tuesday. This is a massive multi-day search on a 50-acre rural property with heavy equipment. And when reporters ask what they're looking for, officials won't say.
You don't have any comment? Very interesting.
They have a comment.
And it's no comment?
Almost. The chief deputy, who was the guy that booked Kurtzman, told WKBN News, he said, quote, "I acknowledge we were there and there's an ongoing investigation that I cannot comment any further on." So he specifically says he can't say whether they were looking for human remains or stolen property or what. He won't confirm anything about the nature of the search.
Interesting. I'm guessing someone talked about something.
Eventually, yes. Sheriff Paul Monroe, the sheriff at the time, gives a statement where he says they were hoping to find something that would crack a specific cold case. And here's the interesting part. He said, quote, "This is something that dates back historically 20 years, what we're looking at."
Interesting. So that's right about when the Markleys disappeared.
Right. 20 years before 2020 would be 2000. We know the Markleys disappeared in 1995. So if you're being specific, it is 25 years, but Monroe said historically 20 years. And when the sheriff of Trumbull County is talking about a cold case from roughly that era while digging up this 50-acre property in Bristol Township, the same place the Markleys lived, it's really hard not to try to connect those dots.
Did they ever confirm if it was the Markley case? Did people ask them outright if that's what they were looking at?
I believe people asked them. They never explicitly confirmed it. And to be completely transparent, it's possible that this was a completely different case. But I haven't found any other Trumbull County cold cases from that era that fits the profile. And the geography is tight. The Markleys lived on Greenville Road in Bristol. Kurtzman property was on Hyde Oakville Road in Bristol. These are not distant locations. This is the same small rural community.
Did they find anything?
There have been no public announcements of results. They searched all 50 acres with excavators over multiple days. BCI was involved, and then silence. No press conference, no arrests, no remains announced. Whatever they were looking for, either they didn't find it or they found something that they're not ready to talk about.
Really bizarre.
Yeah.
And the one person who might have had answers is now dead.
Right.
I mean, I wonder what happened that made them go dig up that property.
Right? I really tried to dig into that.
Could it be something? Did the guy he shoot say something to them?
It's entirely possible.
Like
Nothing
that's
that
why
they've
he shot me? Because I was digging about this. Did Alan say why he shot him?
He did say that it was over guns, that either he thought Byler had taken one of his guns, had taken multiple, or was going to try to take one. Something about guns, which also kind of piques people's interest since the gun safe was open and it could have absolutely no connection, but it could have something.
Yeah.
And, you're right. Him passing in his cell less than 24 hours after his arrest, he was never arraigned. I doubt he was questioned about much, if anything, beyond the shooting. Whatever he knew, if he knew anything, it died with them. Also, he did have a co-owner of the house. I'm trying to see if there's any connection to where whoever co-owned the house with him had a connection to the Markleys.
Well, and I wonder too if they probably went and searched his house after he was arrested, if they found something in the house that made them wonder.
Oh, absolutely. It might not have been something anyone said out loud.
Maybe they found their cell phone or something. Or their
The cell
keys.
phone was in the car, but the keys and the
Keys,
checkbook
yeah.
and John's wallet have never been found.
Yeah, so maybe they found something
So-
like that in his house.
Very possible. Now, there's one more detail about the Kurtzman situation that I want to put on the table. When Alan Byler was shot and staggered out of the house he shared with Kurtzman, he went across the road to a neighbor's home. That neighbor is the one who called 911. In the WFMJ news coverage of the shooting, that neighbor is identified by name. Her surname is Markley.
Oh, is she related to John and Shelly?
Same last name, same township. I've not been able to confirm whether Miss Markley is a relative of John Markley. Markley isn't the rarest name in rural Ohio. Could totally be a coincidence, but Bristol Township is a small place. And the idea that a woman with the same surname as the missing couple is living directly across from the property that investigators searched In connection to what appears to be the Markley cold case, that's a detail that at minimum deserves more investigation.
Yeah, the fact even that someone named Markley is calling 911 across from this property where they're searching, I mean, that's really interesting.
It's a lot,
It's
right?
a lot, yes.
And to be extra careful, I don't want to put anything on Miss Markley that isn't there. She's a neighbor who called 911 when a bleeding man showed up on her porch. That's all we know. But the name, the location, the timing, I'd be doing you a disservice if I didn't mention it at all.
Yeah, definitely something to think about there.
Yeah.
Like everything else with this case.
Yep. Welcome to this case. Exactly. So we've talked about the evidence. We talked about Steven Durst, Milton Kurtzman, the 50-acre property that maybe holds the answers no one's been able to find. But I want to come back to where this story actually lives. At the center of it all, there are 5 kids who came home from school one Friday afternoon and never saw their parents again.
This is so sad.
So sad. I want to tell you what actually happened to them. There's the Plain Dealer feature from February 1997 that we mentioned. There's also an AP Wire story from December of 2000, which was the 5-year anniversary. And together, they give you a real picture of what those kids went through. And honestly, it's a lot. If we go back to the night of December 15th, you already know the kids came home from school. They called their Aunt Judy, who's John's sister. They lived less than 5 miles away, really on the same road. We talked briefly about how Ruth, the oldest, made peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. But if you think about that for a second, that's her stepping right into caregiving mode.
There are still 4 other little kids here who need taken care of.
Right, exactly. They went to the viewing at the Trask funeral home. John and Shelly still hadn't come home. So they go with their aunt and uncle. They waited there for over 3 hours. The entire viewing, or in a lot of reports, it's called calling hours, hoping, praying that John and Shelly would walk through the door. After 9 o'clock that night, Judy rounded everyone up and drove them back to the house on Greenville Road. We know it's still empty. Mara, I need to tell you something about that day, December 15th, 1995.
Oh, what is that? I don't know if I want to know.
It was Johnny's birthday. He turned 8 years old that morning. Woke up
so
as a
sad.
birthday boy. His mom made him breakfast, walked with him to the bus stop. I'm sure that they were planning something fun that weekend to celebrate him. And now that date, his birthday, is the anniversary of his parents' disappearance. Every single year for 30 years now, the date belongs to both things at once.
Oh, that breaks my heart. That's so sad. And kids that age, like birthdays are such a big deal. And I'm sure having a December birthday that close to Christmas, I'm sure his parents made it a big deal. So it stood out. I know having a December birthday, how that's like. And our mom did a great job with that. So I'm sure.
She was great. She always tried to get all the Christmas down.
Yes, it was
so
always down.
Birthday stuff.
And it was my birthday. It was my day, even though it was so close to Christmas. She was so great about that. And it's hard having a December birthday sometimes, you know, if it just can get mashed into Christmas. But
yeah,
hopefully, sure. I'm sure that they were planning something for him. 8's, you know, a big age, and he's young.
Mm-hmm.
And it's exciting. Yeah. Birthdays are exciting at that age. So it's really sad. It's
really sad.
Hard.
And then, you know, right after that, Christmas came. And according to that Plain Dealer article, it went, and I'm quoting, as well as could be expected. We know the kids stayed at their own house. They were being cared for by John's sister, Linda, and her husband, Gene, who had come into town from Salisbury, North Carolina, for Bonnie's funeral. And then they stayed. They didn't leave. They weren't going to leave those kids. And somewhere in the middle of all of it, Johnny wrote a letter to Santa. And the reporter that wrote the article we've talked about got a copy of the letter, and it said, "All I want for Christmas is my mommy and daddy to come home."
Oh, so sad. He just had his birthday, spent all day waiting for his parents to come home. And then Christmas, writing that letter to Santa, it's just heartbreaking.
So heartbreaking. The timing of it all is awful when you think about kids that are excited for the holidays, birthday. Yeah. In June of 1996, so 6 months after the disappearance, a family court judge placed all 5 Markley children with Tom and Judy. And they were surprised. Linda and Jean had been doing all this caregiving. Everyone kind of expected that to continue. But the judge placed the kids with Tom and Judy, who lived on the same street. Tom was 47. He was on early retirement with a back injury. Judy was 46. She told the judge in court that she wasn't sure if she was up to being a full-time mother, especially to 5 kids. He told her that she didn't know what she could do until she had to do it. And you know what? She did it. That first week, all 4 girls slept in one room. Their house wasn't equipped for 5 kids. Johnny took the guest room. Eventually, Tom and Judy converted the family room and the wash area into bedrooms for the girls. They paid the grocery bills with public assistance and donations from relatives. And by July, they were already thinking of those kids as their own.
I mean, they just absorbed an entire family, basically. They didn't have any kids of their own.
Not that I could find, because I was wondering that as well.
Yeah, a big step.
Right. In that article we'll link to, they captured individual portraits of each of the kids. Stacy had a collection of unicorns in her bedroom, a hobby her mom had encouraged. Bonnie and Crystal were photographed playing cards together on a day out from school. And they talked about how Johnny sometimes crawled into bed with Judy at night for comforting. His aunt bragged about him to the reporter like a proud parent. She said he was excellent at math. He was already dividing in 3rd grade. Ruth was 16 by then, working part-time at McDonald's, driving her own car. And she asked her aunt 2 questions that I think about every time I come back to this case. The first was, say that mom and dad come back after 10 years. The house is sold. The Corvette is sold. What would we do? And the second, just in conversation, she said one day, is it okay if my children one day call you grandma?
Oh, so hard already thinking about future family and who's going to fill that role and things like that. And she's only 16.
Right.
I mean, her mom was married having a baby the next year almost.
Oh, yeah. Now, if we fast forward to December of 2000, the 5-year anniversary, the AP story ran in papers all across Ohio. And by then, the landscape had shifted again. 3 of the oldest girls, Ruth, Stacy, and Bonnie, had actually moved back to the family home in Bristol. At that point, Ruth was married. Crystal, who was 17, was living with an aunt and uncle. And Johnny, who had just turned 13, was living with his paternal grandmother. Stacy was 19 at this point, and she told a reporter, I know I'm still a kid, but I see things differently. We were made to grow up fast. And Ruth, who was 20, was pregnant with her first child. She described how she'd learned to cope. And this is really hard. She said, I told myself, you've got to turn cold. That's how I deal with it.
It's really, really tough.
Yeah.
And her way of surviving is just go numb. And I'm sure that she kind of had to do that. I'm sure that's how she's learned to cope all this time. Try and be brave for your siblings. And I'm sure people told her that. You know, you gotta be there for your siblings and be the strong one and things like that, which may not.
It's a lot to take on.
A lot to take on. And that may be what she went to. Go numb.
Yeah. The article also described what the sisters said they missed most, their mother. They talked about how she took all 5 kids grocery shopping every week. All 5 kids every time. They talked about missing their father. They described him as a disciplinarian who wouldn't let his girls date until they were 16, but was always full of love for his family. And there's a term for what these kids were living in. It's called ambiguous loss. When someone is gone, but there's no confirmation, no remains, no final answer. The grief stays open indefinitely. You can't fully mourn because there's always that fraction of a % of your brain that says, what if they're still out there?
Yeah.
Ruth was holding both things at once at 15 and then 16, still doing the math on what happens if they came back, while also asking whether their future kids could call Judy grandma. That's ambiguous loss. You plan for both outcomes at the same time because there's no other choice.
Yeah. And they've been doing that for 30 years now.
Right. The family has never stopped trying. We mentioned how they went on the different shows and tried the psychics. They did everything they could think of to shake something loose, and nothing worked. In 1999, 4 years after the disappearance, John and Shelly were declared legally dead. No funeral, no gravestone with a body beneath it, just a legal document. And the chief investigator, Jane Timko, who spent years on this case, who gave a portion of every single workday to the Markley file, told the plain dealer that she was still rereading it, still reorganizing it, still checking the telephone company's list of calls made from the Markley house. She said, quote, "There's so many maybes. Today I feel this happened. Tomorrow I could feel entirely different," end quote.
So even the detectives can't really land anywhere definitive with this.
Exactly. She's got 20 years of law enforcement experience. She said she had 48 years of life, and that was not enough for this case. The Markley children, who are in their 30s and 40s now, are still fighting for answers. They've maintained the Facebook page, Missing Persons, John and Shelly Markley, where they share updates and they ask the public for information. The Trumbull County Sheriff's Office still considers this an open and active case. As of the 2015 anniversary coverage, they still had the Markleys pickup truck in evidence. Detective Rick Tackett is the listed contact. And there are reportedly 2 large boxes of case documents sitting in that office, waiting for the one piece of information that puts it all together.
There's 30 years sitting there.
Yeah, 30 years now. And somewhere in Trumbull County, or maybe beyond it, someone knows what happened inside that house on the morning of December 15th, 1995. Someone knows who the third man in that truck was. Someone knows where John and Shelly are.
Right. And those 5 kids, they deserve to know. It's been a long time. And like you said, that ambiguous loss, just wondering forever. All
No
this time.
answers.
I mean, I feel like you hold that little piece of hope, you know?
Yeah, because also they would still be fairly young now. You know,
Yeah.
she would be 62. You would be 66. That's young.
Yeah, it is.
Let's lay out the theories, what we think might have happened, and talk through which ones hold up and which ones don't, because maybe somebody listening to this knows something, and maybe hearing it laid out like this is what finally gets them to pick up the phone. So the first theory, and honestly the one I want to address just to get it out of the way, is the voluntary disappearance theory. The idea that John and Shelly left on their own, that they packed up, even though they really didn't, and started a new life somewhere.
Yeah, I just can't see that one.
Yeah, I know. I want to explain why it doesn't work, because there are people who look at cases like that and sometimes default to that assumption. So right away, Shelly left her purse. She left her cigarettes, pack-a-day smoker. John left his wristwatch. There was no note. Shelly always left a note. They left $865 in their bank account. Never touched it again. No withdrawals, no activity, nothing for 30 years. They had 5 children between the ages of 8 and 15. They had the clothes laid out that they were going to wear that night. And every single person who knew them, family, friends, investigators, have all said unequivocally that they would never abandon their children.
Yeah, and I can see where, they're going through the safe with all the paperwork and the gun cabinet. Maybe it could look like they're rushing to grab stuff. They're deciding to leave. I could see where it could look like that, but all the stuff that's left behind doesn't make it feel that way to me.
Agreed. Law enforcement also reached the same conclusion, and honestly, they reached it really quick. The very first articles in the newspapers, even 2 days later, law enforcement was saying they believed foul play happened in this case. And I think we can safely set this theory aside because it really doesn't seem likely. Now, theory 2 is that Steven Durst did it. And Laura, is that where you are right now?
Yeah, I mean, that feels the most plausible to me. It makes the most sense.
Right. The version of events goes something like this. We know Durst is out of work. He believes, rightly or wrongly, that the Markleys owe him $1,000 from his time working for John. He comes to the house that morning. Maybe he's there to collect that money. Maybe it starts as a conversation and escalates. Maybe he forces John and Shelly to go to the bank and withdraw that $1,000. He could be the unidentified man in the passenger seat. Maybe Shelly is in the middle because he refuses to let her out. Because you think about it, why would you need both of them to go to the bank if that was the only thing they were going to do? You don't need both of them.
Right. I guess unless you can't leave someone behind because they'll call the police on you.
Possibly. That's true. They did have their cell phone with them, but when you're sitting next to this guy, it's not like you can make that call.
Maybe he had taken a gun out of their safe and was
or had his own.
them, or had his own.
Yeah.
There's lots of reasons I feel like to take both of them.
Yeah. But if
So
you're
that you're not
only
getting
going to
turned
get the
in.
money, yeah.
Because if someone came and took my husband to the bank without me, you better bet I'm calling the police.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's exactly right. And, they know him. So if it was him and he took the money, they can call when they get home.
Well, and the other thing that gets me too is the man is sitting there without a mask on.
True.
If you're breaking into someone's house to try and rob them or something like that, wouldn't you wear a mask?
Yeah.
And you're taking them to the bank to take money? Why
out of all the places that has surveillance?
Yeah,
you can't assume you're not going to be on surveillance.
Yeah. Why wouldn't you be wearing a mask unless you can play it off as I worked for him, I know them, we're friends?
Mm-hmm. Unless that looks more suspicious to the teller than
Maybe
the possibility of you being on surveillance. But I guess that plays into what you just said. If he thought he could play it off as like, no, they owed me this money because I worked for him. So I went with them. And then I don't know what happened after.
Yeah.
If he was identified on the camera.
On the camera. I was kind of thinking about that too. This guy sitting in the truck with them, like, no big deal.
Right.
Because anybody could have seen him.
John could have sped and got himself pulled over.
Yeah.
Although I feel like those times you would probably never see a cop.
Probably not.
When you want to, but
yeah,
he could have.
He could have. Or they could have seen someone walking down the road who could identify him.
Right.
It just seems odd to be sitting in the truck with broad daylight in the middle of the day. It's like 10 o'clock in the morning. Why, if you're doing this, why are you not hiding who you are if you're planning to do something? Unless you have a way to be like, no, I have a reason to be there.
Agreed.
And like we kind of said, maybe after they leave the bank, maybe the situation escalated. Maybe he wasn't planning to kill them.
But he panics thinking that they are going to call the cops on him.
Yeah, something goes askew, drives off, something happens.
Right.
Oh,
I do think whatever happened, the truck had to have been driven to a remote location off-road to explain all the mud on it. I feel like it had to.
Yeah.
I don't know why you would abandon it and take the keys. Because if they're found on you, it's something that can trace back to you.
If you've done something and you're abandoning the car, maybe he had driven the car back and had touched the keys and he thought maybe fingerprints, but I don't know why your fingerprints wouldn't be on the steering wheel unless he cleaned that. But
yeah, I do wonder if they got any fingerprints because even just sitting in there, unless he was wearing gloves, there's going to be touch DNA. There's going to be fingerprints.
Yeah.
Especially since they still have it in evidence.
Yeah. I don't know.
And maybe the phone calls later, if he did do something, maybe he's thinking 10 days later, no one's even come to talk to me.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I can get more money out of this situation.
Yeah.
especially if I lean on the oldest daughter who is desperate to get them back.
That's the only thing that I think feels really off about this is if you took someone for ransom, why is he not calling the next day? Why is he
True.
waiting 10 days? That almost plays into his opportunistic theory that he saw it in the news and thought, oh, well, we'll scam them.
Right.
Because if you're holding someone, I mean, after 10 days, I'm going to assume that something has happened. And he doesn't provide any proof of life. I don't know. That part was weird to me, that it was 10 days later.
It is. And I can see it two ways. So on the one hand, why would you be so stupid as to insert yourself into something if you did it and nobody's even come to talk to you? Why would you put yourself in that to then make them look at you?
Mm-hmm.
The other side of it is, I got away with this. No one knows it's me. I'm narcissistic enough to believe that I can get away with getting more money. Maybe I can get them to sell the Corvette and just sneak me the money, and then I can leave town and have no connection. If they don't find out who I am, I'm good to go.
That's the only part that made me question that. I don't know. It feels really weird.
The other part of it, I don't see like a long history of violent crime for Durst. So killing both of them, maybe it really is strong rage over what happened 6 months ago. But I don't think you're a mastermind. And there's no physical evidence linking Durst to the crime. They don't find blood, DNA, a weapon, nothing tying him to the house or the truck. The bank teller couldn't identify him. He was initially cleared.
Yeah.
So with that, you could argue he has no involvement and really is just an opportunist.
Yeah. I mean, you don't want to think that way because so many things do make it seem like it is on him. But that part, I don't know, being 10 days later, calling and just trying to get the extra money because he knows something happened to them. He saw it in the news, figures he'll take advantage of it. He needs help. He's not working. His daughter's pregnant. Like there's so many things that he could use money for and figures probably they owe this to me anyway. Knows that they have the Corvette, all of those things. I don't know.
Right.
It doesn't seem like the note that you said felt like a grade school note, the wrong spelling and things like that. Maybe he's not that smart.
True. But I do think you're hitting on the desperate for money part. And I didn't even think about his daughter being 9 months pregnant. If you're not working, you don't have insurance.
Yeah.
Your daughter probably doesn't have insurance.
Yeah.
Probably wondering how you're going to pay for the medical bills, everything that comes next.
And it could be, if he's not that smart about this, that it was him. That money, that $1,000 ran out real fast. And he's like, how do I get more out of this? I don't know.
That's true. He could be both. He could have been real mad and then deciding to be
try
opportunistic.
And milk it for more.
Exactly. He might have thought he was getting more when he went to the house and went through the safe and the gun safe. Might have thought
he only
there was
got
more
$1,000.
money.
He only got $1,000, and with multiple kids and the situation that he was in, not working.
Yeah.
That could have run out really fast.
Agreed. I don't know. Where do you land on him?
I don't know. I think it's hard to know.
I know I go back and forth between all the things we just talked about. It's like on the one hand, this, on the other hand, this.
Yeah.
And I can see it both ways. So I don't know either.
I can too, because, the failed polygraph test, which we know can be not a good indicator, but
true.
That's interesting. Plus the way that it seemed like the person knew the house, but the ransom call and all of that happened after just feels really weird. I don't know.
Agreed. I mean, we got there. We can figure it out, but I don't know.
What stretch do we go to? And why would you do that if you had taken them out and they were gone somewhere?
Do you think, I wonder if taking the tarps off, he was looking in the car for the title and didn't find
Maybe.
it and was like, we need to go get it. Or, like after having already gone through the safe upstairs, maybe they had like a box at the bank or something. Maybe they said they'd give it to him after he took them home. Or
Yeah,
I don't
maybe he was
know.
trying to get more money at the beginning, and it's not like they
Right.
had $10,000 in their bank account. They had
No.
1,800. So they're like, maybe like, we'll give you this now, and then we can figure out the car later. We'll get you more money if he's like trying to
Right.
extort them for money.
Exactly.
Like we said, maybe something escalated. Maybe it was an accident or something. Like maybe he didn't mean to kill them, but something happened with her. She's in the middle. Maybe they get in a fight or something, and then he takes them both out
Mm-hmm.
and then decides to come back for more. But that,
I know.
Oh,
The tarps are so weird in the back of the truck. Why are you?
yeah. Was the
Unless
truck parked in the garage next to the Corvette? Do you know if they
You know
went out
what?
to the
That's a
car and it
good
was there?
question. I saw a picture of the car in the garage. It kind of looked like it was in a one-car garage. So I don't know if it was just the angle on it or if
Maybe
there
they went out that way. I don't know.
Right.
Or maybe he was trying to show them like, hey, I have this. I can
I'll sell it.
I'll give it to you for more
Right.
money.
I don't have the title on me, but look at this.
Yeah.
But then why the tarps back in the back of the truck? I like your idea of them being parked side by side. Like you pull them off and put them there because you know your truck is clean and they're not on the floor that way.
Yeah.
That could be.
Maybe. There's a lot of questions I still have with that theory.
Well, and I do think that whole conversation about the Corvette taking the tarps off makes more sense for it to be someone else other than Durst because he's showing like, I have this, and Durst would have already known he had it. You don't need to show it. He knows what it is.
Right.
Theory 3 is Milton Kurtzman involved or somehow connected to this case. There are people who float the theory that he's connected to Durst. I don't know. I want to be really careful here because that is very speculative. There's no publicly confirmed link between Kurtzman and the Markley case. Law enforcement never named Markleys in connection with the property search. All we have is proximity, the same township, the same small community, and the reference to a cold case from historically roughly 20 years earlier.
Yeah. That one I think is hard to connect to because there's not really rhyme or reason or anything that we even know about. Unless, like we said before, when we talked about him, maybe if they found something in his house that's not been publicly detailed, or if the guy he shot had more information that he gave the police. But I think there's just not enough information known about that to know what to think.
Well, and I go back to the Robert Durst case.
Yeah.
Same name.
I know.
He killed his neighbor, I think, because his neighbor found out that he wasn't who he said he was and that he had committed other crimes and they were looking for him.
Mm-hmm.
It could be similar to where Kurtzman had stuff, but now that he's got this roommate, maybe his roommate was snoopy and found something and it wasn't about guns at all. He could have, while he was barricaded in the house after that guy left, after he shot him, destroyed stuff, got rid of stuff, hid stuff, but maybe they still found some of it. I don't know.
Maybe.
Or there's nothing and it's no connection and there's some other case that is hiding out there. But either way.
Or maybe they had some hint, but they doesn't seem like they found anything on the property. So maybe everyone probably in the area knows about the Markley case.
Yeah.
So maybe the guy he shot said something about like to try and connect him.
That's true.
Like this guy just shot me. I'm going to throw more on there for him.
Right.
I don't know.
Right. Like it sparked in his mind when he went to the neighbor's house and she's like, oh, my name's Miss Markley. What's your name?
Yeah,
He's like,
maybe.
oh, I know.
I thought That seems pretty wild, but I don't.
It absolutely does. I don't
Who
know. We're trying
knows?
to connect the dots, right?
I know. I don't. I just don't see the dots there. Rather, other than them being in the same neighborhood, and them
Exactly.
searching his property.
Which, if it is private property, they cannot search it without his permission.
Yeah.
And if they have nothing to tie him to it, then they were never able to search it.
Yeah.
And again, to be very clear, we have no evidence that Durst or Kurtzman were involved. There's no evidence that they knew each other. Really, they're two separate theories based on two separate things, but they've never been charged or named as suspects or anything like that. They've never said anything publicly. And, multiple days of searching with excavators and the BCI support, there were no arrests, no press conferences, nothing announced, which means either the evidence wasn't there or it was destroyed, moved. Maybe they found something, but they still don't have enough.
Yeah.
And now that Kurtzman is gone, there's no one to charge even if they found something. So that theory revolving around him lives in that real uncomfortable space where, there could be circumstantial pieces that line up, but the confirmation doesn't exist. Theory 4 is the broadest, and it's the one that acknowledges how much we don't know. It's the idea that someone else entirely, not Durst, not Kurtzman, is responsible. John was an independent trucker. Trucking, especially independent operations, can sometimes involve cash transactions, informal business relationships, debts that aren't on paper. He drove from Ohio to Florida and back again. That was his route. It's possible that John had a business dispute or owed money to someone we've never heard of. And that is the person that showed up at the house that morning. The open safe, the scattered papers, it could mean that person was looking for cash or documents. The gun cabinet, maybe John tried to arm himself. Maybe they thought there was money hiding in there.
Kind of the same theory we were talking about with Durst. Someone who would have known them. It could have been anybody who John had worked with. That same theory could apply to them. And then Durst really could be the opportunistic extortion person. And that definitely could be the case. And that would make sense, for all the same reasons that we said for Durst. Someone who knew him, who worked with him. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. And in that theory, like you said, Durst is just the opportunist. He hears about the disappearance, knows the family, feels like they owe him money. $1,000 for ransom seems stupid. So I'll go for $10,000.
Yes.
Which...
Well, and if he thinks that's about how much the car is worth, it's like, well, you can have it right there. Just sell that and I'll take the money.
Well, we could. The theory 4, I think it's important to acknowledge that there might be a piece of this that we've never seen. There might be a person or a relationship or a debt that is just unknown to investigators. And we've got no cell tower data. We really don't have surveillance cameras. The one at the bank didn't capture enough. No social media. It's entirely possible that someone slipped through the cracks. So where do we land? What do you think?
There's so much. I feel like it had to be someone they knew. And
agreed.
I feel like it had to be some kind of dispute with his business. Someone he knew, someone who wanted money from him. I keep going back to where I feel that Durst could be just an opportunistic.
I know.
Gamer.
Me too.
Just because of the time frame. I don't know. It's so bizarre and just not enough answers to so many questions. But I do feel like it was probably someone they knew.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with you. A lot of times I just feel like Durst didn't do this alone. But I do agree. I feel like it had to be someone they knew.
It just feels that way with knowing his family's name, like Ruth's name. And I mean, maybe it was someone they had over for dinner sometime when they were in town and they were working with John. Like there's so many things that could, give the same vibe that you get with Durst. You could have that with someone else.
Agreed.
Durst could just be one disgruntled ex-employee. We just don't know.
Right. If Durst was responsible for this, I don't believe he did it alone. The tarps, the truck being driven off-road, the bodies never being found despite multiple searches. To me, that almost says there was a second set of hands somewhere in this, whether it's someone completely unrelated or whatever the case may be, I don't know. But one man collecting $1,000 debt doesn't usually end with two people vanishing so completely that 30 years of investigation can't find a trace of them. The disappearance is almost too clean, it seems like, for one person acting in the moment. So here's where we are. It's 2026. John and Shelly Markley have been gone for over 30 years. They've been declared legally dead. No remains have ever been found. No one has ever been charged with their disappearance or their murder. The Trumbull County Sheriff's Office still considers this an open case. And 5 children who lost both of their parents only 10 days before Christmas are still waiting for someone to tell them what happened. The thing I keep coming back to is that somebody out there has the answer. This didn't happen in a vacuum. Whether it was any of the people that we talked about or someone we've never heard of, people talk. People tell things to friends, to partners, to cellmates. 30 years is a long time to keep a secret. And secrets like this have a way of surfacing when someone's conscience finally catches up with them. It's also possible somebody who's been afraid to talk realizes that the person they were afraid of is gone. If there was someone out there who knew something but stayed quiet because they were scared, that fear might not have a reason to exist anymore. And those 5 kids, they're not asking for revenge. In 2017, they said the family isn't after an arrest anymore. They just want this story. They want closure. They want remains so they can have a proper burial. And after 30 years, what they need isn't punishment, it's peace. And they deserve that. So if you're listening to this and you know something, again, even if you think it doesn't matter or it's too small, still share it with investigators and let them make the decision. The Trumbull County Sheriff's Office tip line is 330-675-2540. We will list that number as well as the number to reach Detective Rick Tackett directly. And if you don't want to call law enforcement, again, reach out to the family on their Facebook page. They're still there. They check it. They haven't given up. This case is heavy, but it's the kind of case that I think people need to hear about. It is solvable. Someone knows. If this episode reaches the right person, maybe this is the year those 5 kids finally get their answer. Thank you so much for listening. If this case hit you the way it hit us, please share this episode. Send it to someone in Ohio. Send it to someone in Trumbull County. You never know who's 1 degree of separation away from the person who has the missing piece. If you want to follow along with everything we've covered today, you can check out our blog post, which also includes our full source list. That's on our website, crimeclueless.com. And as always, we're so grateful when you follow us, rate us, review us, all the things. It helps us more than you know, and it helps people find these cases. And that's the whole point. Thank you again. And as always, remember, refuse to be clueless, careless, or caught off guard.
Not today, murders.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.